My name's Bob Hartman, and I'm going to tell you a story from my new book, Hanging Out with Jesus Again. Written by myself, illustrated by Mark Beach, published by Authentic Media. We were just sitting around, resting really, Jesus and his disciples, getting ready for our next move. All of us but Bart, actually, who arrived suddenly with a great big beaming Bart smile on his face.
"You'll never guess what I found,"
he announced.
"Oh, I think I can," Tommo grunted. "It's got something to do with food, doesn't it?" "It does,"
Bart grinned. Could it have anything to do with goat? I suggested.
"It could."
Bart's grin grew bigger.
And a stick, possibly," sighed Tommo.
"Not a stick," said Bart mysteriously, pulling something from his overstuffed bag.
"A jar! Goat in a jar! Look, I got one for each of us."
And with that, he set 3 jars, filled with goat pieces in front of each of us. "Thanks, big fella," I said, forcing a smile.
"Yeah," muttered Tommo. "Who wouldn't want a jar stuffed full of unidentifiable goat bits?" "Exactly," Bart beamed. "I was going to eat them all myself, but then I thought, no, Tommo and Pip are my friends, and they need to share this unbelievable moment with me." "Unbelievable. Yeah. That's one word to describe it," Tommo grunted.
"But why jars?" I asked.
"It's a new idea," Bart explained. "The man on the stand told me all about it. After you have eaten the lovely goaty bits, you get to keep the jar." "A jar reeking of goat grease," Tommo replied. "Charming." "You wash it, of course," Bart replied. "And the next time you want some goat, you just take the jar back and pay them, and they fill it up for you. And here's the best bit. They give you money off."
Ignoring the fact that I have never seen you wash anything, I said, what would be the point of saving the jar? There are jars everywhere.
"Today, yes," Bart replied. "But as the man told me, who knows what tomorrow will bring? What if we run out of clay? What if we run out of water? And most important of all, what if we run out of sticks?"
"So there are goat in a jar stands all over the country then?" I said.
"No, just the one over there," Bart pointed.
"Which means we have to come all the way back here to this specific place if we want to get more goat," I sighed.
"As the man said," Bart replied, holding his jar in the air, "rejarring is not for the faint-hearted. It takes commitment. And this jar guarantees that whatever happens, we will still be able to get goat when we want it."
Assuming we do," I said, reaching into my jar and pulling out a piece. What part of the goat is this exactly?"
"It's a question I never ask," Bart replied. "But I have another question. Who is that lady walking over to Jesus with James and John?"
"I think that's their mum," I said. "The wife of Zebedee." Bart chuckled.
"Zebedee. I could say that name all day. Zebedee."
But all Tommo could say was,
"Flippin' fisherman."
"Look at that," I said. She's bowing down in front of Jesus. Now she's holding out her hands like she's asking for something. I wonder what that's about."
"Don't know what she could possibly want," Tommo grunted. "Those sons of hers already get all the best jobs, and they get to go with Jesus when the rest of us have to stay behind. Well, them and Peter, flippin' fishermen."
"Well, whatever it is," I said, "I don't think they're going to get it this time. Jesus is shaking his head."
"About time," Tommo muttered.
Maybe one of us will look in sometimes," I said. And that's when Matthew came running over.
"You will never guess what has happened," he said. "You too have discovered goat in a jar?" answered Bart, waving a piece of goat about. "No," Matthew replied, puzzled. "James and John's mum has just asked Jesus if they could sit on his left and right hand when his kingdom arrives." "What?" roared Tommo. "Flippin' fisherman! I cannot tell you how angry I am." "Not as angry as me," Bart roared along. "This is the most selfish thing I have ever heard. If James and John are sitting on Jesus' hands, how is he supposed to eat? or change his clothes, or blow his nose? How is he supposed to heal the sick or feed the crowds? And not wanting to make assumptions about their hygiene, but if someone sat on your heads long enough, surely their heads would begin to smell like your bottom. And how awful would that be?
Bart, I interrupted, but to no avail. The big guy was on a roll.
And what about goat in a jar?
He went on.
How is Jesus supposed to enjoy the amazing new treat that is goat in a jar with James on one hand and John on the other? And how is he going to even pick up the jar, much less pick out the chunks of gooey deliciousness within?
Bart, I tried again. They don't want to sit on his hands literally. It's an expression. That's all.
I'll say, he huffed, an expression of complete and utter concern about what they want and not what other people want.
Well, that may well also be the case, I nodded. But sitting on the left hand and the right is something people say, not something they actually do. It means you are the first and second in command under the king. Bart paused for a moment, thinking.
Oh, that's all right then, he smiled.
It is not all right, Tommo fumed. Those two want to be our bosses, that's what. But they didn't even have the guts to ask Jesus themselves. They had to ask their mummy to do it for them.
Well, for what it's worth, said Matthew, I don't think it worked. Jesus asked them if they could drink the cup he had to drink. They said they could. He said they would, but he told them that it wasn't up to him to decide who would sit at his right and left hand. It was up to God.
Hang on, said Bart. Now I'm really confused. First we were sitting on hands, but we weren't really sitting on hands. Now we're drinking from cups. So are we really drinking from cups? Or is this another one of those expressions? Or has Jesus possibly discovered goat in a cup, which would be even more convenient than goat in a jar?
I think it's option number 2, I replied. Another saying, another expression.
Which means?
Bart asked. Can they go through the things and experience the hard times that Jesus will have to go through? I said.
Not if they have to rely on their mummy to ask favors for them, grumbled Tommo. Flippin' fishermen.
Well, they said that they can, Matthew shrugged. But who knows? Only time will tell. In the meantime, though, it looks like Jesus is signaling for us to join him. When he had gathered us all together, Jesus spoke. Look at the leaders of the countries all around us, he began. They push their people around. They make a big deal of how important they are. It's all about power for them and showing how strong they are. Well, I don't want that to be the case with you. If one of you wants to be great, then you need to be the servant of the rest. And if you want to be first, then slave away, helping others. Because that's why I came, not to be served, but to become a servant and give my life to set many people free.
Now I'm confused, whispered Tommo. Why does he keep talking about dying? The Messiah doesn't die.
Well, I am not confused at all,
Bart whispered back, another great big beaming Bart smile on his face.
I know exactly what I am going to do. I have served my very best friends, goat in a jar. And now I shall do the same for Jesus. And I will sit on his hand and drink a cup and be the greatest of all. And I won't even need to ask my mum for help.